If he punches, just keep your hands high. They're telling him not to counterpunch.
Yep, you know what time it is, man. This is your favorite channel, man. This is CTB. This is Chin Tuck Boxing. I'm your boy Jay Slay. Say what up to him, man.
What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in.
Most definitely. Of course, you tuning into a show we call here Chin Check. This is where we check you guys' chin with boxing information, boxing news, boxing rumors. And of course, we give you our opinion sometime. And this is an opinion show. The question for today's show, you seen the thumbnail, man. The thumbnail says, where does this leave Keith Thurman? Now that it's a possibility, or it's a foregone conclusion that Earl Spence and Bud Crawford will be fighting in the spring, not the spring, the fall of this year. Where does that leave Keith Thurman, man? So I'm gonna ask you the question, man. What do you think Keith Thurman will have to do now that there's no more rumors of him fighting either Taj Crawford or Earl Spence?
Man, this puts Keith Thurman in a bad spot. But I give you two options for Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman got to make a decision. Do Keith Thurman want to get these belts again? If Keith Thurman want to give his chance at getting belts again and being a champion at 147, he's going to have to wait. And what I mean by that is he's going to have to take a tune-up fight, somewhere on the level of another Mario Barrios, but a real 147-pound fighter, and probably fight him later in the summer before the Terence Crawford fight, and wait for that smoke to clear between those two fighters, and hope that the winner of that fight just moves up and vacates the belts, and then you have a whole bunch of belts sitting around at 147, and he can get a mandatory shot, a title eliminator shot from somebody like a Stan Ionis. He can get a shot with a guy like that, what I think is still a winnable fight for him after seeing him this Saturday. Or he can go for the money, which could be Keith Thurman saying, "Hey, I'm a prize fighter. I don't have time to wait on those guys. I want to fight those guys because getting a fight with Crawford or Spence would have gave him a nice paycheck. So he could go with a guy. I gave him two guys. He can go with two guys across the pond. I think would be two good fights for him. He can either take, I would say, a Kell Brook fight. If he's willing to go across the pond and fight Kell Brook, I think he can get a nice payday. Or he can get the young up-and-coming bull and fight him if they're willing to do that, and Conor Ben. So I think that's two options for him to go. And Keith Thurman got to decide what's more important to him. Did he want to get more legacy and get more hardware? Or did he just want to go and get paid and go ahead and go across the pond and maybe get a $4 or $5 million paycheck to fight either a Brook or maybe a Conor Ben?
Those are two good names, man. Actually, two fights I wouldn't mind seeing, especially that Kell Brook fight. I wouldn't mind watching the Kell Brook versus Keith Thurman fight. Excuse me. But I'm gonna throw two other names out there for you, man. Yeah, kind of in the same category you just gave. He could either fight the young bull here in America that we have, and kind of take his spot as number one contender, which is Jerron Brooks Ennis. He could take that fight, which would be a decent paying fight on Showtime. Or he can pretty much kill two birds with one stone and have a big money fight, a very, very winnable fight. And it's a big enough name to where he would definitely get a payday. You know who that guy is? We kind of called it a long time ago. And he's actually back in the gym working right now as we speak. Adrian the Problem Broner, yo. Do not be surprised if they dust off Adrian Broner to feed him to Keith Thurman so Keith Thurman can look great and stay on his championship goals or whatever. And we all know AB had money problems recently. He had a lot of legal problems, and he seems to be working kind of like towards a fight sometime between now and the summertime. So we might have called it last year, man. We called that fight last year. We might have been on to something last year when we called it. Now they're seeing what we're seeing now. And I'm gonna be honest, man. I would see him fight either Kell Brook or he fight Adrian Broner before he fights a young bull like Conor Ben. Yeah. Or even Stellionis. I'm gonna be honest, because Stellionis don't really bring the payday that he would want, and it'll be a very risky fight because Stellionis is a nice body puncher, man. He's a devastating body puncher. So knowing his weaknesses, I don't think he want to risk that fight for that type of money. But he will definitely risk a Kell Brook fight or a Adrian Broner fight. What you think about those two picks, man?
I think that's it right there, man. I think the Boots he's not fighting Boots. It would make sense for boxing sense, but Keith Thurman is not gonna fight Boots Anderson. That's a no because it's not gonna get enough money and he'll get destroyed. It's not. I'm being honest. There's a guy he don't want to fight. Like I said, another young bull, Conor Ben. He's coming up. He's a strong guy. He probably don't want to mess with that. But like you said, man, the two most obvious and most easiest fight to make, and it makes the most sense, is Kell Brook. Like I said, only thing with Kell Brook, I think he would have to travel across the pond and fight over there, because I think he can get a bigger payday by fighting over there. Or he can fight Adrian Broner on pay-per-view. PBC would love to put that fight together. The way those guys can talk, I think they can sell good. They can sell, I think, 300,000 plus on pay-per-view. And it'll give us something, to keep us busy until we get our the main entree, which is the main course meal, which is Crawford and Spence. So I wouldn't mind watching it. And like I said, even though I think AB is past his prime, I think he do possess some quality that could give Thurman some problems. But I would favor Thurman without going too deep into it. But I think it's definitely a fight that PBC should look to make if Crawford and Spence is already locked in.
Yeah, because I'm gonna be honest, man. If I'm PBC and you knowing what I know about Crawford and Spence, I know them two guys are gonna want to move up soon. They both, especially Spence. He said it's gonna be his last fight at 147. So those belts is about to be vacant. So Keith Thurman going to be basically playing a waiting game. He's going to run across Boots Ennis whether he want to or not at some point. So if you are Keith Thurman, do you want to take the bull by the horns and get him while he's young, or do you want to wait a year or two while he's still building momentum and face him then for a championship belt? This is my last question. If you are in Keith Thurman's corner, are you considering trying to knock off the young lion before he gets to the championship level, or are you trying to just wait it out as long as you possibly can?
This may sound really bad and harsh, but if I'm Keith Thurman and we being realistic, like you said, you take that Adrian Broner fight, you get paid good, you play the waiting game, wait for those vacated belts, and like you said, Boots Ennis with PBC. So to me, you don't fight him now, because if you're gonna take that ass whooping, you might get paid good for it. And everybody knows Boots is gonna be a superstar. He's a superstar. So if this guy gonna be the superstar of the sport in a year and a half, and he gonna have the belt, and you're gonna have to fight him, and you're gonna be the sacrificial lamb, why not get paid good for it? So do you want to take an ass beating for $1 million or $1.5 million or $1 million, or you want to take an ass beating for maybe $3 or $4 million a year from there? So I take the ass beating for $3 or $4 million and just hope, like you said, maybe you get lucky and catch him on a bad night, but I doubt it. But that's the route I would take if I was Keith Thurman and his team.
I kind of disagree with you, man. I'll be honest. I'm kind of biased when it comes to this, just because I want to see the fight now. I kind of want to see. I kind of want to see him take the young bull on right now, man. If he's gonna lose to Boots now, he's gonna lose to Boots later on. And if Boots gonna beat him now, Boots will beat him later on, in my opinion. So I think that'd be a nice little undercard fight, man. That'd be a nice fight to put on Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford undercard, in my opinion. That'd be a nice fight, because you just pretty much solidifying the winner of that fight to fight whoever wins the Crawford versus Spence fight. You pretty much solidifying them to. So it's a great build-up already, in my opinion. And, you know what I'm saying, if it is true that Boots is the goods, and say Crawford does stick around 147 say Crawford does beat Spence, he does stick around, then you have another super fight in the making between Boots and Terence Crawford. We all know Errol Spence is moving up, he said so. But that would be the only way that I see it paying off for Boots, or really, in my opinion, Keith Thurman, because that will put him back on another pay-per-view card, even though he's the co-main. But I don't see him headlining a pay-per-view on his own. Even the Adrian Broner fight, I don't think there's enough interest in that fight to make it a pay-per-view fight. So if you want to get back on that pay-per-view level, it would have to be something like that.
They did a Mario Barrios. They put Mario Barrios and Keith Thurman on pay-per-view.
I think they learned from that. I think they learned from that mistake, man. He only sold like 33,000 views or something like that. I think they learned their lesson from that mistake. And Adrian Broner, his last performance before that, he was against what's the guy's name? I forgot the guy's name, but he was pretty much a tune-up fight that wound up being a close fight. And Adrian Broner didn't look that good and wouldn't let his hand go. So Santiago. Santiago, there you go. I don't think of those two performances, man. I don't think PBC are dumb enough to try to put those two on pay-per-view, man. I'm gonna be honest. If they do, maybe they want to risk their money, then by all means. But I don't think they would risk that money like that.
Keith Thurman don't want that smoke, man. He came out and said verbatim, I don't know that boy. So he don't even know who Boosie is, man. How you gonna fight somebody he'll know who he is?
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I'm gonna be honest. Keith Thurman has been running from Young Lions his whole career, man. I'm being honest. Even though he has the resume of beating Danny Garcia first and he beat Sean Porter first, but he was ducking the Young Lions, who was at that time Earl Spence and Terrence Crawford. So he does have a track record of ducking the Young Lions. So I lean in your way, man. I don't think he's fighting Boots. All right, with that being said, man, you got anything else to add to this topic?
No, I think we covered it all for right now.
Most definitely. Well, with that being said, man, this is your favorite channel, man, CTB. Chin Tuck Boxing. I'm your boy, Jay Slay. Say peace to him, man.
All right, everybody, remember to like, subscribe, hit the notification button, comment. Let's keep this channel growing. You know why? Because we love boxing and you love boxing. But most of all, God, peace and love, and we out of here. Take care.
Peace.
Nail Pacquiao with the right hand.